I'm currently building the ultimate video game reseller app, and it's called OneUp. And while there definitely have been a bunch of challenges along the way, one of the funnest parts of the whole process has been the design. So I wanted to update you guys. It's been a few months, and I've done a bunch of work with the branding team on figuring out what OneUp is going to look like. Now, where we left off was on this presentation. The potential logos and themes and general directions for how the app would look. This first one is sort of a pixel art feel. The next one, look at that. How clean is that? The next one was called Joystick. It's a little bit more modern, but still like with this grid in the background, very retro, kind of arcadey. And then last but not least, we have this one, which I just kind of instantly didn't like. So the feedback that I left them with after seeing that presentation was, all right, the big question was to pixel or not to pixel. And ultimately, the decision that I went with was not to pixel. One, because it restricts the art style a good bit. Two, because it's been done a lot before. And three, because I just really liked the look of this. I thought this was kind of sick. And so this is where we have gone since then. I have 3 presentations to share with you guys. The first one is the Visual Brand Concept Revisions, version 1. Now, here is the original concept, kind of where we started this. This is the meeting that we had to really flesh out, like, what direction do we want to expand this? Like, what do we like? What do we dislike? I said, I think after the initial meeting that I don't like these as much, these brand assets, but I do really like the colors and all that kind of stuff. So they hit me with a few other color scheme options. Some of them are like variants, some of them are a little bit more off the wall. And I came away from this meeting saying, like, this is great, but I'd really like to see the top ones like implemented before I can really say, okay, this original color scheme is what I like best, or let's go in a different direction. Like, just seeing color blocks doesn't really help me enough. So that was one takeaway from this meeting. Another was, the logos. So they did different versions of the logo as well, just so that I can make sure which one I like the best. This one I thought was a great contender, the little up arrow inside the circle. Here are a few more on a different kind of, what's that called again? Grid background. I thought those were pretty sweet. Then some different like visual little components, and I think these are way better than the last round. Here you can see, look at that, the OneUp app on the actual app store. Now seeing this, one of the feedbacks that I had was, I don't think it really pops enough. There's so much negative space and the blue isn't quite poppy enough that I think whatever color we end up going with, it should probably be not blue, or not at least that darkish blue. Here is a few different potentials of the same logo. And this is a logo that I sent to multiple people. I sent it to Retro Rick and Riff and showed my wife and all that. And a big piece of feedback that I got that I didn't realize is that apparently it's very similar to the Star Trek logo. I wasn't a Star Trek guy growing up, so that did not register with me at all. But that was a big piece of feedback that I did take back to them after this meeting. Oh, this maybe was, I'm just realizing I scrolled a little bit more. I hadn't actually decided at this point whether or not I was going to continue with the pixel. This was like, let's flesh out pixel, let's flesh out the non-pixel and see which one we like better. So they hit me with this and these, still in the same color scheme and everything. Same typeface. I think this is this. Oh no, it's not. This is a more pixely typeface. And this is part of what convinced me. I just didn't think this looked as dynamic, especially given the lack of gradients and stuff, as the other scheme. So you guys can let me know if you think that I made the right decision with that, with forsaking the pixel art style. Maybe that could have been really cool. I don't know. Maybe I made the wrong choice. I personally like the other ones better. There they are, kind of side by side. One thing that I did say is I don't love how these colors layer on each other. I think that looks a little bit noisy. I think this looks way better and cleaner. I like that one a lot. So anyways, that's kind of how this first presentation wrapped up. So the feedback that I gave them was, let's go away from the pixels and let's see a little bit more fleshed out like fonts and colors and stuff and variations of this and this concept. And that brings us to the, what is this? Logo concept revisions. Also said, all right, this like Star Trek-y thing I think might be a little bit too derivative, so let's see if we can break out of that a little bit. So they gave me this like more filled in version with less negative space, which I do think is an improvement, but still a little bit Star Trek-y. Then they brought this up, which is a little bit more segmented, and I thought kind of more distinctive. Maybe it's a slight, like maybe it's only a slight change, but given that I started liking this, I saw this and was like, ooh, that really feels like its own thing, but like it still maintained the same essence that I really liked from the first one. And I was like, okay, let's see what else there is, but that one's definitely a contender. What else did they bring up? Okay, this one with the full circle. This one reminded me a lot of an elevator button. And I didn't love how the colors layered on each other again. Like how I envisioned the app is mostly like sparks of these bright colors on primarily black background, not really layering with each other or intermingling kind of like this as much, because that I think can get chaotic really quick. This one I thought was interesting. I liked the simplicity, but it felt a little bit less distinctive, less memorable. Kind of the same story with this. I thought that was cool, but I don't know. It didn't really make me feel like, wow, this is its own like new cool thing. And then this one I didn't really love as much. So here's all of them together. This is where we kind of look to figure out, all right, what are we feeling best? And this is where I really realized number 2 is just, it's where it's at for me. I love number 2, and that I believe is going to be the ultimate final logo of OneUp, which is pretty exciting. At this point, by the way, let me know what you guys think of that choice. I think it's the best option that we had, and seeing all of the other variants made me even more confident in it. I've realized that's a big part of what this whole brand discovery process is. It's like, I don't have a concrete idea of what I want going in, but when I see options, it's easy to pick between them and narrow down that way. Then they hit me with the varying color schemes. This one, which is also very bright and, summery, kind of Easter, which I instantly was like, that's not it. That's not OneUp. This one, which is a little bit more like duochrome, and I was just kind of like, it doesn't quite feel right. Then there was this one, which is less neon, but I think really cool. Like the oranges and the blues, I just think complement each other really well. It's almost a little bit 70s to me. But ultimately at the same time, I was just like, I don't think it looks as good as the original orange and blue and green and pink. Like, I think those just work really well together and they would pop really well from a background. I don't think that color scheme necessarily goes as well contrasting on like a black background. So ultimately I decided with the original. I said those ideas, they're all cool, but I don't like any of them as much as I liked the first one, so let's not do them. Pretty simple. And that brings us up to date to today. This is late August at this point, mid to late August, 23rd. By the way, just generally in the process, I just had my first meeting with the expensive development firm Apex this last week. We had a bunch of scheduling issues setting up the first meeting, which was definitely frustrating because I'm impatient to get going. But having that first meeting gave me a lot of confidence because it seems like they're a really solid group and definitely know what they're doing. Asked a lot of great questions, so I'm excited to see what they come up with. This is the final presentation that Bolt, or not final, but the most recent presentation that Bolt just gave me. That is the brand guide. And I did have some revisions for them, but it's cool to see these concepts that we're talking about implemented a little bit more. So here is the title slide of that, which I thought was pretty sweet. I do think that as far as the main color, I don't think I'm going to go with this blue. I think it's probably going to be orange, maybe green. How's that? Oh, it looks so cool. So this is another example of like, I don't like all the colors blending together. I like how the colors, so cover all that up. I like just the orange popping on the black. I think that's really cool, but you implement all this other stuff and I think it gets kind of noisy, and that was one of the things that I told them. Look at that. The outline I think looks really great as well. Again, the 3 colors on the black is a little bit much for me. This I do think looks really clean, right? How they're all kind of distinct and segmented. And you've got like just a little splash of color, a little subtle gradient back there. But ultimately, like, I really like this implementation better than the others. This, of course, you know, the secondary assets, this is going to be noisy because it's just a bunch of stuff all in the same place. But it is cool to see it all, like the different kinds of background grids. And I like how they have this kind of glow effect on the gradients. One thing that we talked about is the white on the green isn't as, and especially on this camera, it's coming across as really tough to see. That we're gonna be doing a little bit of like experimenting with. Got some different sizings of the logo, typography. This is like how the main fonts are going to look, but very importantly, this is the like heading font. And then this is the general text font. This will probably mostly be white, I would guess. And it's very easy to read, not nearly as like poppy or like distracting as this. I think this is great for headings, but most of the text, if it was all Arcadia, boy, it would be like hard to really focus on. So most of it's just gonna be this very standard open sans. Color. This is just like the, I don't know, like technical stuff. Brand execution. So this, oh yeah, this is where they actually plugged it into an app. And this is where I was like, okay, this is a really good start, but I am envisioning it darker and a little bit less like cluttered. And you can kind of see it here too. The word that Spencer kept using, the head designer, was, it feels like I want an app that feels a little bit moodier, which I thought was funny. We'll have a nice little moody, edgy, it's not a phase mom kind of a game hunting app here. But I really do think, like, when we changed and we were able to tinker around with it a little bit in the meeting and make this background closer to black, like a really dark gradient, and it did make this stuff pop better. The other feedback that I had was, I don't like as much this, right? All the colors clustered together. I don't like as much having them all like blocky next to each other here. I pictured a little bit more negative space maybe here with outlines as, you know, different colors. I did think this was a really cool little section. That is a feature that I'd like to implement eventually. Like games that are kind of on the rise, being able to just tap those quickly on the home screen is really a cool idea. But as we were talking a little bit more about like the user journey on this and how people are going to navigate through, we did realize we'll need like an actual home menu bar on the bottom here, like a lot of apps have. We talked a lot about what those menu items need to be. Your personal collection, scanning a game. I talked a lot about how, like, if possible, I want to design the scan screen so that you click, look up a game, and the top part of the screen of the app is instantly a camera so that you can scan a barcode, and the bottom part is instantly bringing up your keyboard in case you need to search. So there's no extra clicks that you need to do after look up game to get to the keyboard or to get to the camera or however you want to look it up, just to try to eliminate as much friction as possible for people. So anyway, collections, lots, another feature that I'm not quite mentioning yet. And then like item lookup. Item lookup is, I think, what people are going to be using most in OneUp. And we have like different, like this is an example that they had of like when you scan a game, this is what comes up. In reality, this is missing a lot of data, and that's something that I told them, like this needs to have the eBay sales and it needs to have like Amazon comps and price charting. And this doesn't really, this just has like, you can go to all of those, but it's not immediately displaying the data. So this is going to look very different ultimately. This I thought was kind of a cool little, like, oh, you can see the price going up, resale, like this is all just very different from what I had in mind. This was kind of cool to see, little OneUp hat. I would never go flat brimmed though, personally. I mean, you guys can see, I'm a curved bill guy. They put it on a shirt. It's coming together, folks. It really is. It's exciting to see. So we'll have, I think, 1 to 2 more meetings with Bolt, the branding team, to really get some like solid mock-ups for the development team of like this is what we envision it looking like currently. And then I'm sure the development team over the next 4 months is going to take those and run with them and iterate and do different things. And well, there'll be a million conversations between now and then of how this thing develops. But that is the current state of the union in terms of what our game hunting app is going to look like, folks.